Hello, Steven.
Hello, Peter. Hello,
How's it going?
Twitch.
Yeah.
Good.
We're on. We're live. We're live here.
hmm
Yeah. Welcome to Slim DevOps number 64. Can't believe we've been doing that this long, but this is going to be our first stream without Martin, so it's going to be kind of a fun one for us. So, welcome, Steven. How you been?
Sorry. Good. Good. Uh, I guess this is my first time on since the new year. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Welcome
hmm
back. Welcome back.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, and hi to everybody in chat. Hi, Rack. Good seeing you again. Looks like we have a few people kind of trickling in and joining. So today we're going to be working on a WordPress container and slimming that. Steven's going to be walking us through that.
hmm
I'm Peter Van Orden. I'm the Senior Director of Growth here at Slim.AI. And Steven is our co-op who joined us from Northeastern University and has been working with us to build out a bunch of kind of hello world versions of slimming. You can check those out if you go to Slim.AI above my head, or you can check us out in GitHub at SlimDevOps. We have a repo there where we save a lot of the examples that we've done. Before we get into the WordPress container, Steven, what have you been up to? I think you've been doing a fun little coding project. What has that been all about?
Yeah. So I've been competing in Battle Code right now, and that's a competition run every year by MIT.
Okay.
Um, they kind of release a different it would look like a real-time strategy, but technically it's turn-based, just many thousands of turns happening every second. Just a little game that you like program to play autonomously against all the other competitors. So I'm having a lot of fun with that, and it's got like some weird technical challenges too. Like you write to optimize bytecode, which
Okay.
means you just like ignore the good data structures and every like design principle and hard code everything.
That's cool. And what are the types
Yeah,
of games? So like, are you coding and you can pick any language you want? And then like, what's like
yeah,
a typical, like what's something you would write that you'd submit to the battle code?
yeah. So they release this one game every year, and it's usually it's all looks very similar. Like if you're familiar with like StarCraft or like Age of
Okay.
Empires 2, like that kind of game. Um, more bare bones, but the rules change. Like they like rebalance and stuff. And you submit one like bot, but
Okay.
it's like iterative. So you like submit to like a scrimmage server, and then you compete against other competitors' teams along the way, and they run like several tournaments. And there are like a few hundred teams in the running.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I remembered I competed in it like 5 or 6 years ago in high school, and then remembered it existed. Actually, on this stream when I was talking to Martin about my first Docker container.
Nice.
This year it's just in Java though. In past they've
Okay.
let you use multiple languages.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So you write a little Java code. That's a bot. It goes out and battles other bots, and then you kind of go through like a
hmm
tournament kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
Super cool.
Well,
How are you doing in the competition so far?
right now I think there are like 500 teams registered, a couple hundred teams with submissions. We're hanging in like the top 25% right now, like top 50.
Okay.
Um, hoping to climb. Past teams. There's like some reusability year to year for things like pathfinding. So
Okay.
the first week we were hoping those teams had a head start, and now we're gonna try to close the gap. Yeah, but I've seen some real like nightmare stuff with that problem in particular, where like teams have like from past years, like I saw a 3,000 line like implementation of like breadth first search that didn't use like a single data structure, just hundreds of like hard coded like integers and booleans.
Hmm.
Um, so uh, that head start was a bit of a disadvantage.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
Yeah.
That's it's not easy to grok. Okay, cool. Well, nice. Well, we'll keep us posted on how it goes, and
hmm
maybe post in the chat sort of like how people can check out um,
hmm
battle code, or drop it in the Discord.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, for
They're
anybody that's
actually,
yeah, go ahead.
I was about to say they're on Twitch too. So
Okay,
I think they count as Battle Code or MIT Battle Code. It's run by MIT.
okay.
Um,
My alma mater.
yeah.
Woo. So
Yeah.
nice.
They stream like every evening at like 8, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, if this WordPress container goes real wrong, then we can raid them. But hopefully we aren't on for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Hopefully it goes a little
Next
smoother.
5 hours. Yeah.
But awesome, awesome. Sounds
Hmm.
good. Well, cool. Yeah, I haven't been working on anything half that exciting. I have been building out with some team members here, building out a Circle CI orb. So that's been pretty
Oh, yeah.
fun. Yeah, yeah, we've been kind of working. We're building one that brings the vulnerability scanning and kind of profiling capabilities from the Slim platform over to Circle CI. So, we've been working on that. They had kind of a pretty well-known security event earlier last week, so that definitely, it's always kind of exciting to be in the middle of one of those security things happening. So we were building our orb at the same time that they were divulging that information. But I think, from everything I've seen, they've done a good job of getting out the information about rotating your API keys and rotating any kind of secrets that you have in Circle CI. Just kind of a good, healthy reminder that, you know, your build systems matter. Your secrets matter. Keeping track of where you're keeping your secrets and your API keys and all that kind of stuff, and paying attention to security in your build system really is important. But looking forward to actually getting that orb out into the hands of users. So if we have anybody on stream who's actually using Circle CI, let us know. We'll be posting some information about it in the Discord channel. If you go to our Discord at Slim.AI, you'll find a link down at the bottom of the page to jump into our Discord. I might even do a little bit of office hours tomorrow if I have some time in the Discord to kind of hack on that Circle CI orb. So if anybody's interested in joining me for that, maybe I can rope Big Pod into doing that with me. But yeah, we've got the orb in a pretty good place. Just need to make a few improvements to it, and then that'll be out and available to use. So
We have a couple orbs published already, right? We've got an X-ray orb, and do we have a slimming orb?
we didn't. Yeah, we haven't built a hardening orb. That's what this orb is going to be. Is it actually runs
Hmm.
the X-ray and the vulnerability scanning on our platform, produces a JSON file, and then actually adds that to your collections in the Slim platform, so you can keep track of those containers. And the idea is that you do it on every build of the system, every time you build a new container, and then you have sort of this, kind of like availability to track and manage those containers. We're going to build a separate hardening one, I believe. I think we have a design partner who's working with us who has that use case, and so that's what we're going to do there. So, yeah, should be
Hmm.
interesting. But cool. All right. Well, do you want to jump into it? Tell me where I'm going. Am I going over to the browser window so you can kind of set up what we're talking about today?
Let's start out with the my VS Code window.
Sure.
I guess I'll start out by showing the starter kit.
Cool.
Um, Let me know when
And
that's on.
for everybody in chat while Steven's getting set up, so drop in and say hi. Let us know what kind of containers you're working on. Let us know how you found us. If you have questions as Steven's going through it, please ping us on that. And also, this is my first time running the stream without Martin, who was our head of community, who left recently. So if there's any kind of audio or video problems, please let me know. I'll see if I can correct them on the fly here. So, but do say
Mhm.
hi, and it's good to see everybody. So.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a starter kit I put out a couple weeks ago for setting up and slimming the WordPress latest container.
Okay.
And I figured maybe I'd just follow through the process again in a with a new WordPress site. The cool thing about this latest container is it lets you when you go to the local host, it lets you build the site if you don't have like volumes already that you're loading.
Okay.
So if I were to go like here and just make like um, a new Docker compose YAML in a different folder, throw that in, go navigate over. Um, let's see, WordPress. You can just close up and
Okay.
yep. There we go. Just put up the um,
Cool.
service. So WordPress needs to be or at least in every version I've seen, it's been hooked up to a database, typically MySQL. We
Uh-huh.
use the MariaDB MySQL version,
Okay.
which I found to be just the most popular.
Yeah.
So now if we go if I'm not, cursed by the live demo gods, I should be able to go to localhost 80 if you switch to my
Browser.
browser.
Okay. Cool.
Oh, yeah. This, oh, did this load the volumes from this one?
Okay.
Probably did, because I already
So
used
what
that.
did that do?
Oh,
So
well,
we're
let's look
looking
at
at
my
the
old
dark
one.
forest. So just to
Yeah,
take
yeah.
a pause for a second, so what we were looking at, so you had a Docker Compose file that gave you kind of some boilerplate to get a WordPress container
Mm-hmm.
spun up. WordPress being a very popular content management system. WordPress requires a database, so if you were doing this kind of like from scratch with just the container and you didn't have the Docker Compose file, you would need to spin up the database separately.
Oh,
But since you have this kind of boilerplate, it's going to spin up this MariaDB thing for you. And it looks like you're a little confused right now because it looks like this is actually a
I, fi-
blog that you have like set up already or something. So
I,
somehow it's
I
reading
figured
data.
out why. I copied the wrong Docker Compose file, of
Okay.
course, from the original project. So uh, let me copy in the one that uses its own volumes and see if I didn't
Okay.
mess this up entirely.
Yep. And
Um,
so, and maybe if you could hit
let's
like
see.
plus on this one, just to see if we can make the code a little bit bigger here. Um,
Oh yeah, my
yeah, just
right.
zoom in a little bit.
Ooh, let's do
Yeah,
that.
that looks good.
Yeah.
Um,
So now we have the one with
okay.
volumes.
And so the volumes, just for people, I mean, we have a Container 101 series that we've worked on for people who might be new to Docker or haven't seen Compose in a while. Volumes are the way that you're going to store information. You're obviously not going to store information in a container, which is ephemeral. As you spin down the container, it's gonna have the data go away. You use these volumes to store stuff to your local host, to your local machine. And that's what databases are going to need in order to store and persist information. So it just happened when Steven was actually linking to a volume that he had already set up,
Yeah.
on his local machine. So all the setup that he had done is still there because that
hmm
was already on his local machine. Yep.
hmm Yeah. Okay. But now we see this is the base setup.
Cool.
Just with like two more lines of code, right? The volumes. It's gonna look in the root directory to see if we have the HTML and database folder set up yet, and if not, it's gonna set us to those send us to the like
Right.
admin install page where we can choose
Yep.
English and then a site title. We'll make another one. This is the same
Cool.
I did on my starter kit. So the
Okay.
dark forest for the uninitiated is my roommate Zane's radio show.
Okay. All right.
Um, so maybe one day he'll want me to make him a WordPress site.
Okay. So we're
Um,
making a WordPress site for Zane's
yeah,
radio show, The
secret
Dark Forest.
password. Yeah.
Where does the radio show exist these days? Is that on like Spotify? Is that
Uh,
like a Last FM thing or something?
so it's on WRBB, which if you go, you can listen to it online, or if you're in Boston, I forget the station, you can look it up. But
Okay. All right.
so last semester he would run like every Friday at like 1 a.m. I think for an hour.
Okay. All right.
Um,
College radio.
so ooh,
This is like college radio talk. Nice. All right.
there goes my unhidden password. Oh, it
Well,
doesn't. Oh, I forgot. The regex caught my email and revealed my password. That's funny. Dubendir. Dubendir is a friend of ours.
okay.
Funny name.
So this isn't a
Um,
password you use regularly. I hope this is just for
yeah,
the WordPress
yeah.
container that we were going to spin
Look,
down.
if any of you break into my apartment and pop into my local machine, you'll be able to access the admin view of this.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
right. So
All right.
this is the admin view now that we haven't like built it yet.
Okay. So
From this. Hmm?
yeah, well, I was just
Go.
going to say this is a little bit of a different style of a container than what we've worked on before because usually what we're doing on this stream is building some sort of application in like Python or Node,
hmm
or we have something that's like out of the box like Grafana or Prometheus or something
hmm
like that where we just run it. In this case, like we started the container with a database and then we got brought to this like sort of setup system. And this is
hmm
typical of like a CMS like WordPress or Drupal, but I imagine that creates some challenges for like configuring it, right? You have to go through and do this step manually every time, right?
Yeah. So like not necessarily like what happened before. Like if you have
Mm-hmm.
the HTML and database folders,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to like configure anything. But I think you could still access that page, that view that we were just at. Um,
Okay. So the
if
volumes are
we
the way
went to
that you
like
keep the configurations persistent,
yeah
and if you had a volume running
yeah.
already that had like the WordPress configuration in
Hmm.
it, you'd already you wouldn't need to kind of go through these steps. That's what the setup does.
Let's
Yeah.
wonder, yeah, so we can make like a post here. The Dark Forest radio show. And then these will just get like I wonder if I could attach an image. That would be cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a button somewhere there, but I guess we're not going to worry too much about this part of the process. Yeah, so if we go back to the volumes on VS Code,
Yep.
I think like any like posts we add, like everything important, uh, like in the editing, is just going to modify these
Oh, okay.
files, and they're not gonna touch the container itself, um,
Okay.
which
So
is quite
so during
convenient.
that
Yeah.
spin up process, then we've like added all of these. Like we added
Hmm.
the database folder, we added the MySQL folder. We didn't do
Hmm.
that. WordPress, the container, did that and set that up and created
Hmm.
those volumes. Yep. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, yeah, because you can see these volumes, they didn't
Okay.
exist, so it created them.
Got it.
Uh, yeah. So then this container, the WordPress latest, I think comes in at around 600 to 700 megabytes. Let me just take the site down, look at images. Maybe it's less. WordPress latest 615 megabytes. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a pretty big
Um,
container. Yeah.
mhm,
But
yeah.
it's got a lot of stuff
And
in it, right? It's got a lot of like,
mhm,
it's got all these configuration scripts. It's got all yada yada
yeah.
yada. Right. Yep.
Um, yeah. So I ran that through the Slim portal
Okay.
back when I was doing the starter kit. Um, and little spoiler, I just click my way through the
The
setup
hardening
wizard,
process.
not adding any
Yep.
special configurations, and I still have the image that it spit out. Um, so I went through the hardening flow,
Hmm.
and see, little spoiler, we'll go to the broken folder, which is
I
maybe an
wonder what
unkind
happened to
way
this
of putting it.
container.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, let's see.
So for if people are watching, or if you're watching this later and you're not familiar, we go through the flow quite a lot on this stream. But at Slim.AI, you can go and you can sign up for a free developer account. Just click the sign in or the get started link. Use your GitHub to sign in. And if you search for a container like WordPress, you can find that container, or you can connect your own uh, repo or registry so you can look at your own containers. You can find any public container or connect any private registry. And then go through what we call the slimming process or the hardening process, which is an automated process that runs. It does a combination of static and dynamic analysis on the container, and then it's going to rebuild a functionally equivalent container that has only what you need in it and nothing that you don't. But as Steven, I believe, might be about to show us, sometimes the results are a little too good to be true, and some configuration may be required, especially for more complex containers like things like WordPress. Thankfully, that's easy to do. So,
Yeah.
so what do you got?
Okay. Um, again, the live demo gods. This suddenly works. Uh,
Hey,
the one that was supposed to be broken. So great. No,
well, that's
done.
okay. Let's take a look
Uh,
at it. Let's see
yeah,
what it
yeah.
does. Maybe it doesn't work in every instance. But what? Talk to us about what you
Let's
saw
go back up.
before.
Yeah. So
Like,
in the error log before, we got a missing. Maybe it is happening. Let me see if the site picks up. Um,
okay, so now you're
ooh,
doing the
no,
same
yeah, the
thing,
site.
but now we're using the
Yeah,
Slim container.
suspicious. Yeah. So this is um the Slim one. I must have. I'm thinking maybe I re-tagged it a couple weeks ago without realizing, and this is actually the one that did work. Um, yeah, yeah. I probably did do that. I overwrote the tag. So
Okay.
I could re-slim right now if we wanted to, but the crux of it is going to be we get kind of the opposite of the normal issue where the startup goes to create a file and then sees that it already exists, and that shuts down the whole process and all the containers crash.
Okay.
Um, um,
Okay.
yeah,
And
so
maybe, yeah, do you want to jump into the
actually,
Slim portal and try to do that? And we can provide a little context for people.
yeah, sure. Let's go to the Slim portal and make sure that this uh, sign in with GitHub. Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe it's possible that bug existed in the latest 2 weeks ago and not the latest today.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was. I want to say it was like var/lock. We can actually see it in my starter kit. I might have screenshotted the error. But let's go to. Actually, we can just go to search for containers. WordPress latest. We don't need to go to my own.
Yep.
Um, Grab it straight from Docker Hub. And go to harden. Right, start hardening.
Hmm.
Um,
So,
run it.
yeah. So right now, what you're doing is actually something that we kind of coach people away from doing, which is to slim a public image that you just found, or to harden a
Hmm.
public image that you just found on the
Yeah.
internet. But in this case, since it's WordPress, right, it's actually a functionally like a functional third-party application
Hmm.
that can run on its
Yeah.
own. Now, it's probably going to break because it doesn't have the configuration bits that you
Yeah.
need in order to make
Well,
it successful. But yeah.
you know, yeah, so actually we can get the whole process here. The
Hmm.
one time I find that like using the portal for like a base image is typically fine is when it's in like a bigger like Docker Compose configuration,
Hmm.
because we can actually upload the Docker Compose
Oh,
file.
okay. Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I
this is
haven't
gonna
really done
take a
that too much.
second because the Compose is going to be on my uh, like WSL like network folder, and I'll have to copy
Okay.
that to mine. But if you go back to VS Code, there is one little catch to these.
Okay.
Um, and usually I actually, why am I making a new one? I can just show my what I did um, in the starter kit, right? So you'll notice I made a Docker Compose -dev. And the only difference is that I've removed the references to volumes.
Okay.
First of all, because the some clouds uh, not going to have
Right.
those
The
volumes,
volumes are
so
on
it
your
doesn't really do
local
anything.
machine, so they're
Yeah.
not going to be running in
Um,
the Slim Cloud, so you don't get
and
those.
the second problem is I believe the underlying like Slim toolkit um, does not like um, underlying Slim toolkit does not like volumes, so
Okay.
it wouldn't have worked either way. So let me make sure ooh, there's some pictures from the Dark Forest. Uh, have fun in my MISC file. So here we go. Just copy that, and we can spy on it, make sure it's all right.
Oh,
Image
okay, cool.
WordPress rate latest, links to that, same ports, everything, just no volumes.
Okay.
Um, I went next. Target compose. Yep, we're gonna target the WordPress service because that's
Oh,
where the
okay.
image is used.
It's cool. I haven't actually
Um,
seen this flow before. I think every time I've tried to use the Docker Compose thing, I haven't been able to get it
yeah,
running. So probably user error on my side.
let's see.
But
Yeah. Event starting. So we should be able to see the output log.
hmm
And this is the Slim toolkit running. And I
yeah.
usually have a pretty good idea. Um,
So, and just as a reminder for people who are joining,
oh,
like what's happening now is we're running this WordPress container. We have a lot of information about the container from the Docker Compose file, from Slim's analysis of the WordPress container. And then what it's doing is it's trying to get it to spin up similar to the configuration screen that we saw before, and then test different endpoints within the container, understand what's running inside of it, rebuild a functionally equivalent version of that that's going to be significantly smaller.
mhm,
And so that's what the process that Steven's going through. As we mentioned, sometimes it requires
cool.
a bit more configuration, especially for sort of more
Mhm,
generic images, like WordPress right out of the box might be. So yeah,
yeah. Um, cool.
cool.
So this is
So that
outputting.
created a
Is
Slim container, and now it's giving you the analysis on what changed between the original container and now the
mhm,
Slim container. Yep.
mhm. Meanwhile, I'm gonna make a call to this. I'm gonna make the same file on my machines because it'll be quicker than downloading on the stream.
Sure.
Um, um, let's see,
We'll give that a second to complete. And now we've got
Oh,
the final results, which is that we went from a 615 megabyte container to a 229 megabyte container,
mhm.
which seems pretty similar to the one that you had before. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I expect, it's probably going to be a little bit different because it was the latest 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
We can actually pull up the starter kit and look at my results there. If I, yeah, typoed, bookmark
Yep.
starter kits. Let's see what my results were 2 weeks ago. WordPress Hello World, right. Uh, Binary size human, that's a binary size. Where's the, um, vulnerability difference?
Yeah, the binary size.
Size of
So
the binaries is,
yeah, so in 450 megabytes to 122 megabytes.
mhm,
Um,
yeah.
and for people who are wondering where Steven is right now, I just posted our GitHub repo that has all of these examples. If you go to the starter kits
Mhm.
folder in there, you'll find a bunch of different ways that you can get started slimming your own containers. If you have a WordPress container, Steven's kind of template here is a good thing to follow and get started. Of course, you can go to the Slim.AI platform and log in and start with WordPress or connect uh, uh,
Mhm.
your own repos so that you can get your own containers on the
Yeah.
platform and give it a try. Um,
I see now. For the total size, it's the binary count plus the UTF-8 size. So that's the same 615 down to the same, I think 228,
okay.
229. So we gained a megabyte, or maybe that's just a rounding. It's probably
Okay.
rounding.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
All right. The
Um,
UTF-8 is what? That's like all the text files and stuff like that.
uh,
I don't know.
I'm
I
not
guess
sure
we'll
actually.
have to ask our engineers. Many of our engineers are on
Yeah,
stream, and
it's
you
the
know what the
engineering side.
UTF-8 is.
Yeah,
Let
yeah.
us know. But interesting.
UTF.
Okay. Cool.
I'm sure that the TLA is somewhere in my brain.
Cool. Cool.
Um,
All right. So,
uh,
and if you click on
yeah,
File System Overlay here, I'm just kind of
right.
curious, like what was removed from this container,
A whole
and
lot.
is there anything interesting? Yeah.
So a whole lot of scripts, like shell stuff is just gone.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't really need to like do this on, um, the
You're not going to
production
be
level.
logging into the
Uh,
Linux running
yeah,
WordPress and grep different things unless something has really, really gone horribly wrong. And
yeah.
even then, we would
Hmm.
argue you probably don't want to do that. Image magic is always a pain. So,
Yeah. Let's see if I
yep.
can remember there were the file that there's one problem file in this output, and if we go
Hey,
back
no,
to
no.
my starter kit, yeah, run/lock. So this gets removed, and this is what causes another file to not be overwritten later, to crash
Okay.
it when we try to make a new one. So uh, and that's
Sorry.
not even
Yes. Start.
a
Sorry,
megabyte.
Stephen. Do you mind double clicking on that a little bit? Maybe go back to where you were looking at that sentence in your write up.
Oh, yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
yeah.
explain that to me a little bit?
Yeah. It was a little tricky. So typically, like, the hope is if it's not working, you see immediately in the error logs, tried to access file,
Mm-hmm.
slash, HTML slash, you know index.php or something. And then it's simple, back in the setup wizard when we were clicking through really fast, there's an option to like manually like force include a file. And
Okay.
this one, it was a little different. It outputted, tried to create file, but it already existed,
Okay.
uh, which was a little weird. But I saw that in the file explorer that like that file was, or that script was like being accessed by this run/lock, and I
Okay.
looked in the I went into the file explorer over here and saw, actually it
Yeah,
should
if
be
you
gone,
search for
but we
that,
should
you
be able
should
to
be able to
see.
find it. Yeah.
Can I collapse this bin?
Yeah, just search for it at
Ah,
the top. Yeah.
yeah, run slash.
Oh, or maybe not.
the- might have to scroll to it.
Maybe take the star out.
Uh,
Yeah.
Let me just see. Run, right? Yeah, we should
Oh,
have just
okay. There you
collapsed
go.
the bin. Lock.
All
Yeah,
right.
so I think that indicates the grayed out indicates it was removed, right?
Removed during the
Um,
slimming process. So
so yeah. including this folder is what made it work. And as you
Okay.
can see, it's like the size is like negligible.
Okay.
Uh, uh, so the output container is still the exact same size with the extra file included, but it works.
Okay.
So that's
So that's
a
some
huge
sort of
plus.
low-level script that's running for whatever reason the Slim system, as we do our kind of smoke tests or whatever kind of generic
Hmm.
tests that we have running,
Hmm.
doesn't detect that this needs to stay in. There's an easy
Yeah.
fix, which is to just tell the system to keep that in. It's an unfortunate little
Hmm.
piece of debugging, and we have some exciting new features that are coming that we'll be able to talk about in a couple weeks,
Hmm.
that really will make this problem go away. But for right now, what you're going to do is you're just going to tell the system, hey, don't remove this folder. It's necessary. I saw it in my debugging
Hmm.
process, and that's gonna cause the container to work. Yep.
Yeah. Uh, I find that typically it's something with like um, when you have like startup files that are created and destroyed,
Mm-hmm.
that tends to be when it gets tricked up. But
Got it.
that
Got it.
impressive 16,000 files or 10,000 files removed, and I only needed to take one back, so
Okay.
considered that a win.
Cool.
And we can see that the one with the that included is on my Docker Hub. If we go back to the VS
Yeah.
Code, that's
Yeah.
that's access right here. And if I wanted to navigate back, I could do like Docker Slim, uh, or not Docker Slim, Docker Compose dash file, um,
Mm-hmm.
Docker Compose
While you're
dash
working on that, I
Slim.
want to say hi
Yeah.
to Nena Hacks, who's in chat, and I owe you an email, and we'll have a pretty exciting announcement. I'm very excited about it, but we'll wait until all is good. But excited to see you here, and feel free to click the follow button. Stay up to date if you're not following us already. For anybody else who is watching and following along, feel free to say hi in chat. Let us know what kind of containers you work on. If this is interesting, you have questions about what Steven's going through with this WordPress container or the slimming process, happy to answer questions. Always good to get some chat going. So, all right, Steven. So what are you doing now?
Yep. I just spun up. So using the same uh, database and HTML volumes that we generated using that I generated way back using just the WordPress latest, I can now use in this altered Docker Compose file. I
Yep.
can use from my own Docker hub the slimmed one, which is much smaller,
Okay.
and spin up the container and
So that's the
again.
229 megabyte one that you just created, but
Mhm.
with that little caveat that you included that run lock file in the include path. And so now
Yep.
that container should be running just fine. Yep.
Yep. And then we can see in the browser um, that's sending me right up to the um, user view. And
Sorry.
I think if I wanted to, I could.
I forgot I was on the controls. I'm so used to Martin doing the controls that when you said that, I was like,
uh,
oh yeah, why isn't Martin changing that? Oh wait, no,
we're
I'm
spoiled.
I'm Martin now. I'm Martin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
Gotta remember
Uh,
to start calling you that. Yeah.
no, please
Uh,
don't. I
yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
live up to those.
So,
I can't fill those shoes. That's too much expectation
yeah,
for me. So
yeah. So same page, different container because it's using the same volumes. I think
okay,
if I go to this link, yeah, I could log in
okay.
as the admin, yeah, and then right to the page again, or I could
Uh,
just go back to localhost
oh, so
80
that's
user.
cool actually. Then I hadn't like made that connection before. That just by having the volume, so you're storing not just like because I was always thinking of volumes as like content, or like a
Hmm.
database, images, something like that. But since the configuration files are actually stored in the volume as well, that you can actually change out the Slim container, the original container for the Slim
Hmm.
container without really any disruption. So if you already had a WordPress instance running, and maybe if people are in chat or people in our Discord have an instance of this, I would love
Hmm.
to test this out. If you had like a WordPress fully baked site, you actually do a Slim container through our
Hmm.
process, and then just put that into the same infrastructure, and you'd have all the content blogs, but also the configuration, admin setup, and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's nice that like WordPress, like all of this is just like serving like HTML,
Yeah.
images, like stuff that can easily be put in volumes. If this was
Hmm.
like some kind of, Python Flask app that was like, executing some code,
Right.
or running a more complicated web app, it's kind of unlikely that we'd be able to just, jump around with the same slimmed container. But like preserving HTML, like this slimmed um, WordPress hasn't failed me yet. And I've also
Okay. Cool.
tried plugins too.
Okay. So
I,
talk to me about what
um,
WordPress plugins are just in general. I'm sure Stream is or Chat is pretty familiar with them. I'm not. I'm kind of a WordPress noob. I haven't used
yeah,
it much. So like, what are
yeah.
plugins?
So these are just like little like add-ons to your website.
Okay.
Like right here is a spam
Okay.
protection. I'm assuming this one was installed by default. So I guess it's
Okay.
very popular. 5 million active installations.
Okay.
I'm guessing it can detect like spam messages or maybe like spam email signups. Um, and then like health and troubleshooting lets you troubleshoot all kinds of stuff. And I think um, this also may just install to the curious where exactly that goes, because I know it doesn't modify the container. I
Okay.
believe it also goes to the volumes somewhere, though I haven't figured out exactly where these get put. But like
Okay.
I
Can
can,
you look at it in VS Code or no?
I could look. There's just a lot of
Okay.
a lot of stuff in there, and I'm not.
Got it.
Let's see. If we go to HTML, includes like it's just a lot in the
Okay.
volumes.
Yeah.
Um, where to go? Content admin.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's somewhere in here, I suspect.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, lots of PHP stuff. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But as far as I know, like it hasn't uh really interacted with the container modifications anyway in any way, which is quite nice, I think.
Yeah. That is cool. It's good that because I guess when I think about WordPress and you see like, it's like a 600 megabyte container, I'm like, oh, that must have a ton of stuff in it that it needs, and it's
Hmm.
complex and it's complicated and it has all these folders and it has this whole
Hmm.
admin side that I don't really know about. But truth be told, most of that stuff exists in volumes that the container just creates when you start it up and configure it.
Hmm.
So once that stuff is set up, running getting a Slim container for it is actually just removing maybe a lot of the startup stuff, a lot of the operating system components that maybe aren't necessary for the container to actually run. And then all of the stuff that you take the time to set up yourself as a developer or WordPress developer remain in the volumes and are kind of transferable that way.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
definitely.
Yeah, I like that. WordPress is winning me over. Maybe I'll start a WordPress site.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been looking into some of the other popular containers like used to host uh, WordPress and some of the other stacks that people use. I haven't slimmed any of them yet, but I was
Mhm.
thinking maybe we have time for some live coding there.
Sure. Yeah. Let's give it a shot. Yeah. I mean, we're at about 50 minutes here, and so yeah. Why don't we give it 10, 15 minutes, and we'll see what we can do. YOLO. What can go wrong? These are
Yeah.
the favorite parts of the stream. So, what
Yeah.
container are we gonna try? What are we gonna look at?
Okay, so we've got a few. There's in these folders on the side you can see.
Okay.
Um, this was just the new one we set up, so nothing there broken.
Yep.
There's the Bitnami. There's Ancient, which I think we're gonna stay
Ancient.
away from. I
Okay.
was curious to see
What
if I
is?
could get the I was curious if I could get to see get the oldest WordPress image on Docker Hub working in the same stack. And it
Not
was successful.
recommended.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you actually
If
get
if
it spun up? Yeah.
yeah, and it looked like I noticed some of the stuff was different, but it looked relatively similar. I guess like
Okay.
7 years ago was 2016.
So gosh.
Um, I guess like HTML sites haven't changed that much.
2016.
Um,
What was
yeah.
everybody doing
Um,
in 2016? That's my challenge to chat. What were you doing in 2016? What were you doing in 2016, Steven? I don't even want to know. You're young.
what was I doing? I was
Yeah.
this time in 2016. I was an eighth grader. I was in eighth grade.
Nice.
Uh, yes, and then yeah,
And
I
what
hadn't.
was your favorite thing to do in eighth grade?
You know,
What was like your jam
I
in
think I
eighth
wrote my
grade?
first line of code in eighth grade.
Okay, all right.
Let's see, I was on a few hockey teams. I was I think reading some books or something. I don't know what eighth graders. I don't remember.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. But I
I
read
was
like a I was taking some I was getting ready for some coding classes that my high school was offering, and I read like a it was like Head First Java or like some object oriented like coding book. Um,
okay.
and understood none of it.
It
Yeah.
was not WordPress 4 that you were working on then in 2016 as your first line of code, I
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was in 2016. I was graduating from MIT. I was finishing my business school degree. I was getting my MBA, so
Oh
a
my
little bit
gosh, yeah.
older, little slightly
Graduating.
older. Yeah,
I
Aisha in
was
chat says
graduating
I was not
Charles
ready
at
for
Patton
this.
Middle School.
Just
Yeah.
realized how young Steven is. So
Eighth grade in 2016. I graduated high school in 2020, so the 2016 was an election year, and that was in my
Mhm.
freshman year fall. So in the start of 2016, yeah, I would have been in eighth grade. I think I was 5'1". Um,
Okay,
uh,
all right. 5'1", nice.
yeah.
Nena Hacks
So
says in 2016 I was teaching myself to build my first web pages. Awesome. Yeah. All right. So
oh
a lot of
yeah,
new code written in 2016. That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, Nena.
yeah.
What language were you in? What was that? HTML, JavaScript? Are you doing Node stuff, Python stuff? Let us know. Um, awesome. Yeah. Trip down memory lane. Not
Hmm.
recommended for finding images on Docker Hub, for sure. Um, so
Yes.
most people know this, I think, about Docker Hub, but Docker Hub is a repository. It's been around for a long time. They keep all the legacy images in Docker Hub for compatibility issues. Some people are built on those, right? Like I was working for a company in 2016 that might still be on WordPress 4. They might still need the that version of the Docker container. Obviously, the older those containers get, the more likely they are to have vulnerabilities or not be supported with security patches and updates if they're not the LTS or if they've gone out of service. So yeah, tread with caution when you're finding old images on Docker Hub. Usually, you want things that are updated in the last 7 days, last 30 days, something like that. If not, then you might be grabbing a container that is not not the best one. And you can use Slim.AI for Docker Hub, for ECR Public, for Quay, for any place you find public registries to get a good sense of, is this a good container for me? Does it have vulnerabilities? Has it been updated recently? Does it look well maintained? We have a lot of good insights there. Um, let's see. Lindsay says, I was in England finishing up my master's program as well as 2016. No new code here. So Lindsay and I were both studying the business side. Nena says, she was doing HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript. She says, is Heroku still a thing? I think Heroku is still a thing. I think a lot of people. I was using some Heroku the other day, but maybe we can do that on stream. We'll do some containers on Heroku. That'd be a good explanation, good
Yeah.
exploration for us, and be like our retro stream or something. So nice.
Yeah. 2016 is retro.
I mean, time
Yeah.
flies, you know. All right, so we're not going to look at the ancient container because we don't think that that's a good best practice to be going back 7 years and finding old
Yeah.
containers. Um, what's this one that you're looking at? Alpine
Right. Right.
FPM.
So the two like other like most popular stacks I found for WordPress being implemented was one was this Alpine version, which I'll explain second because it's more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
But this Bitnami one also appeared a bit, and it has
Okay.
a similar setup. I was hoping I could just drop in the Bitnami tag
Mm-hmm.
and have everything work, but that was not immediately the case. One of the things that's different is I think it wanted different like environment like variable
Okay.
names, which is like one that I always overlook. And I think typically they like say that somewhere in the like docs on Docker Hub, like
Yeah, yeah.
around the tag.
It's
So
kind of
a few
an
modifications I was able.
RTFM situation where you need to kind of dig into the documentation, figure out how
Yeah,
Bitnami. So people know
yeah.
Bitnami is just a different flavor. It's maintained by a different company, by the Bitnami company. Bitnami was very early
Hmm.
into Docker and creating containers and sort of reliable curated containers.
Yeah,
But they don't always work the same way as the Docker official images. Sometimes the Docker official images can be a little
yeah.
easier to use. Um,
Yeah.
but your mileage may vary. So
hmm Yeah. So this was like the recommended configuration for Bitnami. I was able to get it working. It was like accessible.
mhm.
I was a little confused on what exactly the port mapping was doing here, and that was
Okay,
part of why when I tried to slim it, I couldn't figure out which because I didn't really understand their network setup. The probe that runs like under the hood
yep,
in this like the Slim toolkit running on the portal, like needs to know where to probe for like the web pages, interact with everything, figure out what's essential.
yeah.
Um, and typically,
When you
like
say you
what I'd
couldn't
be like,
figure out the port mapping, you mean like it's because what I always forget. This is like a how to exit Vim for me kind of thing. Like I always forget which one, like the left or the right, is like the left one. I believe is the port that the container app, the application in the container is looking for. You can think of it as an output, and then the one on the right side is what your local host or the outside world is going to be looking for. So in this
Mhm,
case, I think you would be probing on port 8080 and
exactly right.
WordPress would be open on 80, and that
Yeah,
mapping is the connection between them. We did
yeah,
a whole
yeah.
stream on this
Which
once,
is
and I still forget. I still like
which
screw
is
it up.
exactly what I was thinking going in, right? That's how,
Yep.
every one of my starter kits, a few dozen containers I've summed operates on that notion.
Yep.
But for some odd reason, when I was spinning up this container in my web browser, 8080 was serving empty and 80 was serving the site.
Oh,
And
interesting.
that had me scratching my head, and then the probe was failing too. So
Okay.
this may be something in the configuration that I've made a mistake with. This may be something that has to do with uh, the volumes, or probably not the volumes, but maybe something to do with the docs that I overlooked. But yeah,
Okay.
I kind of defeated me in when I was looking at that, why port 80 on my local host was serving and port 8080 wasn't.
Okay.
So that was a bit of a dead end for me, but I left off on
Yeah.
this other stack,
Well, if
which
our
was pretty complicated
networking friends
actually.
have ideas for us there, please ping us in
Yeah.
chat. But I'm stumped on that one too. So, um,
Um. Yeah. Wait a second. No. Yeah. This is all in the right indentation. So this is the other stack I saw. So this is the WordPress PHP 8.2 FPM Alpine.
yep.
A little bit wordier than latest. Um, as I understand, I forget what FPM stands for. I knew before the stream started, but it's slipped away.
I can't
Um,
help you. It's
so
like,
yeah, yeah.
um,
So this container, like I was kind of silly. I just spun it up with these two, and everything built, but I couldn't get access to the ports. So as it turns out, the intention of this, I believe, is to be set up with it's like fast CGI or something,
okay.
something with like Nginx. You want a proxy server, um, you know, uh, interacting with the WordPress container and then posting it. So I set up an Nginx server. Um,
Huh.
and that required an extra configuration file,
Okay.
which yeah, fast CGI params.
So the
Um,
Alpine container. So for people on stream watching who might be new, Alpine containers are sort of a minimal base image. It's an operating system, open source operating system that is maintained with security and sort of a minimalistic view of the world. And
mhm,
the idea is that you don't want these sort of bloated containers in production. It's very similar to the ethos of Slim.AI, though a very different approach to building containers. Um, and sometimes what happens with Alpine containers, I haven't seen this before, where you actually like require an Nginx image
mhm,
to be on the front end of it. I'm kind of curious why that is. Maybe that has to do with the FPM, but usually Alpine, you can understand Alpine to be like a very minimal but functional image that is the same as the image that you're using. So if it was WordPress Alpine, you'd expect to find Alpine built on top of the Alpine, or sorry, WordPress built on top of the Alpine operating system, and you wouldn't find tools in it like we were looking at before, grep and stuff like that probably aren't going
mhm.
to be there.
Yeah,
But it's also highly appropriate for production use, though you do run into some of
yeah,
these gotchas here and there. Did you look at
yeah,
this in the Slim platform? Because I wonder if we go use the diff tool just to see the difference between this
yeah,
image and the
sure.
one that you were working on.
Mhm.
That could be a cool
Yeah,
little exploration. Yeah.
yeah. I think I might be wrong. I think the latest is built on an Apache server, and this has like the WordPress PHP. Like this has
Um,
no like actual like web server.
Okay. That's
So
why you need the
I think
Nginx
it
on the
delivers to
front of it.
port 9000, which Nginx is then supposed to receive.
Okay.
And I think, like, I'm not an expert in this. I think my impression was that this is more secure,
Yeah.
running it through the Nginx.
Sure.
But yeah, I can pop these open and compare them in the Slim
Okay.
portal.
Yeah. So in this case,
I believe.
Nginx is acting like it's a proxy server, but it's acting as kind of an ingress controller. I'll probably use the wrong phrase, but it's basically saying like, okay, Nginx is going to run. Nginx is like a very secure and minimal way of managing traffic and getting traffic in. Um, and so rather than have some sort of like insecure web server running inside the WordPress container, we're going to outsource the the web serving components and only have WordPress do the content management. I'm kind of making this up as I go, but we're YOLO streaming, so
Hmm.
take that with a
Yeah.
grain of salt. But that's
Hmm.
our basic understanding of what's happening.
Hmm. Yeah.
So Stephen, what did you just do? Because you did it really quickly. You're very adept at the Slim tool. So what did you
Right.
just do? Yeah.
Right. So if you see up here, you can just I was in the comparison for my own two images, and instead of like opening a new compare or searching one of the images, I just, this little top level menu up here has
Mm-hmm.
access to like all public registries supported by Slim.AI, which is a lot,
Yep.
and all like connectors that you have. So neither of these are my containers, but I was able to just search them up, and it pulled them from Docker Hub. You can see the public Docker Hub connector. So I have the
Mm-hmm.
latest tag in the PHP 8.2 FPM Alpine. So
Okay.
difference here.
So this is in the Slim platform. If you're on a container image, you click the compare button. You come to this tool that has a lot of really cool capabilities, being able to diff to containers. If you're using our
Mm,
Docker desktop extension, which you can find in your Docker desktop, if you have Docker desktop running, go to the extensions tab. That just went to GA, which is really awesome. Congrats to the Docker team on that. You can find the Slim extension and do the same analysis just right in your Docker desktop extension. But yeah, so looking at the file system diff, yeah. Oh, okay. So I see like
this
in
is
the
the
environment
metadata.
variables, there's none of the Apache stuff there. So that was sort of your hint
Hmm.
that the Apache web server is not there. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of differences between these
Yeah,
containers because they're
especially
fundamentally different operating systems.
right. We
Yeah,
have Alpine Linux versus Debian
right,
Bullseye.
right.
Yeah, but you see the Alpine one is about half the size.
Yep.
Still smaller than the one that that was slimmed, but I imagine if this went through the slimming process, it would be even smaller.
Yep.
Um, yep. So,
But yeah, that's kind of where you see there's a lot of similarities, like the volume, the working directory, all of those
you know,
things are kind of
one
configured the
fourth of
same.
binaries. Yeah.
Right, but it is a
Mm,
more minimal image, but it also has this sort of added overhead that you need to kind of figure out the configuration of it.
actually curious. We could
Okay,
also compare this to my slimmed one if we wanted.
sure.
Um,
Yeah,
let me
let's
see
do
if
that.
I can
That's great.
remember. You know, WordPress Slim. That should work if I remember the tag right. Might be WordPress Hello World Slim. What did I name it? Um,
Yeah, do you want to just
yeah,
grab it
it's
out of your?
dash Hello World. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Um,
So in this case, you're taking one of your private images, you're comparing it to the public Alpine image. In
yeah.
theory,
Yeah.
this one should have some of that stuff that you
Mhm.
created, some of those configuration files and stuff like that in it, right? Because
Mhm.
or maybe not actually,
Uh,
because those are in the volumes, I
shouldn't have
guess.
any. No. Yeah. Yeah. So this is my Slim one, and you saw there were two options. It just got repeated because it found it in my Docker Hub that I connected, and it's public on
Yep.
Docker Hub.
Yep.
So, yeah. BusyBox is an Alpine thing, right? I think
Yeah, BusyBox is the
that's Mark explained
need.
it to me.
Yeah, when Martin would have helped out. Martin's like our Linux guy. He would have known. BusyBox is like the kernel, I believe. Somebody will have to fact check me on this. I believe BusyBox is the kernel. It's like a very minimalistic kernel, or part of the operating system that allows Alpine to be very small but also very secure, being built on BusyBox. So
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Um,
cool.
compress size,
So
a little smaller. Um, yeah, very close number of binaries actually, which you know,
okay.
um, isn't that surprising?
Yeah, this is typical.
And I'm
So
sure there's a lot of overlap.
you've slimmed the WordPress latest, which you configured into your Hello World. That's built on Debian, right? Which is an operating system that a lot of people use. One of the more popular ones. When you run it through the slimming process, comparing it to Alpine, which is a very different operating system, you wind up with about the same size, about the same number of binaries, is what we're saying. There are a lot of files that are different just because they're different operating systems. They have different approaches, but in your case, you have a slimmed Debian, still Debian-based image, whereas the Alpine image has the Alpine operating system in it. So,
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I'm kind of curious if anything happened to did anything happen to the WordPressy bits? Like if you, here's a little hot tip. If you click that X on the search, it actually, this is a little bit of a bug I think we need to fix. It gives you this dropped. I know. I think we should.
I was trying to remember how I got to that view before. I was like, why can't I collapse?
For product people are watching, open a ticket. We should default to not this. But where does the WordPressy bits show up? That's funny.
So that's the server, right? I'm curious. Yeah. So I don't think it would be in here. This is just gonna be
No,
scripts.
I don't think it's in bin. That's all the operating system stuff.
This might be
There's
some
image
stuff.
magic. So Neno, we got rid of image magic. Huzzah! Hopefully we don't need it. But oh no, we only got rid of image magic 6. Image magic 7's in there. So maybe image magic is needed for WordPress to operate.
Yeah, I did test image functionalities were working fine on the Slim.
Okay.
I could upload stuff, edit it.
Yeah. Oh, here's an idea. Go up to search and search for WP, like star.
WPs.
Oh yeah, there's some of the WordPressy bits. So we did get rid of a lot. Okay, this is kind of interesting. WordPress includes. So this is all sort of the WordPressy stuff. And actually, if you click into, go up to the top maybe a little bit. I'm just kind of curious on some of these. So WP activate, WP admin.css. So it looks like it kind of took out some of the admin capabilities and stuff like that. Or no, that just means that they're not in the Alpine image. So that means that you haven't set them up yet, right? They haven't been configured in the Alpine image yet.
In the Alpine image, the Alpine image hasn't been slimmed at all. So does red indicates?
Red indicates that it's not in the right container.
Yeah. I'm curious. The Alpine.
Or maybe it's in a different file. Maybe it's
in
a different
that's probably the case
system.
actually, right?
Okay. Yeah. Why don't we find one of the more interesting ones? Why don't we do WP configure docker.php? Why don't we search for wp-config?
Cool.
Oh no. Okay, so those files are just actually removed, or they're not in the Alpine image. So I'm kind of curious about that. I mean, we'll probably have to do some more hunting and pecking to figure that one out. One cool thing is if you click open the wp config docker.php and click file contents. So just one thing for people to see is when you're in this view, you can actually see an actual file by file diff if something had been modified from one file to the other. But you can also go into the actual files in the container and understand what they are and what they're doing. So if you're a PHP developer and you're curious, okay, this file got removed, what does it do? Okay, I can go in and say, okay, this is the base configuration image. Now, our container has already been configured when we go to slim it, so that's probably why the system removed this piece of it. But it's not necessary for the production container. Obviously, if we were starting this container by hand again, you would want this in there. So interesting. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to share there, Steven? I think that might be an interesting kind of stopping point.
Yeah. I mean, unless we have somebody on chat that wants to take over and write all of this Nginx configuration, properly. Uh,
If you
um,
are dying to write Nginx configuration, raise your hand now, or come to
please don't.
Slim.AI and come into our Discord. So if you come to Slim, you go down to the bottom of the page, you'll find a link to our Discord, and you can probably find it in chat here as well. So drop into Discord. It's where we find a lot of we solve a lot of these problems, and we kind of hack on things together. So maybe Steven, at some point we can corral you for a little office hours in the Discord, and we can kind of jam on the Nginx side of the house. But I think kind of a nice thing to see is that, like, with a Slim image, you have something very similar to an Alpine image, but without that added complexity of having to pull in the Nginx image. And in fairness to the Alpine image, there's probably some good documentation out there somewhere that would tell you how to do that. But you didn't have to worry about all of that. You kind of got to use the benefits of the WordPress latest out of the box, but had the kind of security benefits brought to you by the Slim process. So that's kind of a good outcome for us, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, cool. All right. Well, I hope Zane's radio show winds up with an awesome new blog. We'll post a link to that in the Discord channel so people can check out Zane's radio show online. But
I don't know if it was clear. I was trying to pop in some of the pictures for it, but we never got to that. Zane,
okay.
he dresses up as a wizard
Here,
when he's airing this show.
That sounds worth looking at. Oops, hold on, sorry.
What screen could I actually share those on?
Do you have the WordPress running there? I think I see something for your last tab there. Maybe it's still running the Dark Forest blog.
WordPress. I feel like this is gonna crash when I refresh. Yeah.
Oh no. Okay.
Next time.
Next time.
You can see it when it goes live. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we will pay attention to the Dark Forest radio show and do that. So awesome. All right. Well, sounds good. Well, Steven, I'm glad that we have you for another semester. We'll be working with you a bit. I know you actually have classes in school that you have to do now and that kind of stuff, which is important. But
forgot about those.
Don't forget about those. We need you to pass it, Northeastern. But yeah, we'll be having you on stream. Maybe once a month, once every other week, and so we'll tee up the next thing. In the meantime, if you go to Slim.AI, you'll find a section on the homepage. It's called Starter Kits, and Steven's built a lot of that content out for us. So if you're looking to get started in a specific language, Node or Python or Ruby or something like that, that's a really great starting point. We'll be adding this WordPress starter kit to that very shortly. You can also go to github.com/SlimDevOps, and you'll find all of these examples that we've been working on, including the starter kits. So that's a great place to learn as well. And yeah, Steven, what are you working on for us next? Do you have some project that's going on, or?
I have a little side thing that's gonna pick up in the start of February with community member Oak on Discord.
Cool.
We are setting up a stack for a little AI project that we're doing together, and I'm gonna try to help with the Docker side with some very large data science containers.
I saw this one. This one is awesome. I'm super excited about this one. Oak in our community has done some really cool work, and this is right up my alley because it's like using AI to produce like fiction content. So I'm like, both sides of my geekdom are fired up about this one. So my content producer side and my coding side. So awesome. All right. Well, yeah. Maybe we can get both of you guys on stream to share that whenever you're in a good place for that. So awesome. All right, sounds good. Well, I will be here next week. We will be diving into vulnerability scanning. Big Pod will be joining me, and we'll be looking at some of the differences between some of the different vulnerability scanners, and seeing what that really means for security teams and development teams, and how you can kind of get through what we call kind of CVE noise, which is very prevalent today. So join us for that. Give us a follow. Steven, where can people find you?
Oh gosh, what's my Twitter? Search Steven Chiquino on Twitter. If any of you can spell my name. I was tagged on the SlimDevOps Twitter, I think, or the Slim Twitter today when the stream was shouted out. So get me from there.
Yeah, and also in our Discord. It's
right.
Steven Nick in the Discord. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's Steven CIC.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the Discord.
Number
Okay, and you can find me
7727.
at PSVan on Twitter. Same on LinkedIn. People are doing that instead of Twitter these days. And of course, in Discord, I'm at PSV. So drop in Discord and say hi. And thanks everybody for joining. We will see you next week. So, bye bye.